year was 1870. America was following a tradition, a desire, almost a passion to keep moving westward. 100 years ago, the central frontier lay in Iowa and Missouri. Even though the Union Pacific Railroad had just completed a set of tracks across the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains, this mode of travel was much too expensive for the average family, plus the fact that it was virtually impossible to take such basic household items as the bedstead or the wood stove on the train. By far, the most common means of moving west was by covered wagon, and the favored route, the overland trails across the mid-continent. Thus, cities such as Kansas City and St. Joseph, accessible by riverboat, became jumping-off places for the westward journey. These towns were booming supply centers and outfitting posts. For their travels, the pioneers needed a food supply, plus mules, horses, or oxen if they didn't already have some. The next requirement was a wagon, not the huge, heavy, elaborate Conestoga wagon from Pennsylvania, as some paintings might have us believe. Even if a family could afford the purchase price, the Conestoga was entirely too cumbersome for this trip and was rarely used west of the Mississippi River. The choice vehicle, then, was the regular farm wagon, strengthened and caulked for fording the many streams that would have to be crossed. The wagon consisted of 3 parts. The body or bed was a wooden box 9 or 10 feet long and about 4 feet wide. The sides were about 4 feet high. The top or cover was the most conspicuous part of the whole outfit. It was made of canvas, waterproof with linseed oil, and was supported by 5 or 6 bows of bent hickory. There was enough height to accommodate double decking at night for sleeping the whole family. The running gear had to be strong but light in weight. The iron wheels were about 4 feet high with spokes made of oak. From previous pioneers, it was learned that the safest way to travel was in a wagon caravan, headed by a wagon master who had made the trip before. The frontier town was the place where civilization ended. Several trails westward were in existence 100 years ago for prospective settlers. One of the most important was the Smokey Hill Trail. It began just west of Kansas City at the Smokey Hill River, then wound west as a single thoroughfare to Denver, approximately 600 miles. It gained great popularity, being at least 60 miles shorter than the Central Overland Trail. Eventually, along its route, notorious cow towns emerged: Junction City, Abilene, and Salina. To its disadvantage, the Smokey Hill Trail lay in the very heart of Indian hunting grounds. For this reason, white men using the trail constantly faced danger of attack. Not only was the Smokey Hill Trail considered more exposed to Indian attacks, but its terrain was extremely rough. Now let us explore part of the Smokey Hill Trail as it is today in the High Plains region of northwestern Kansas. Come join the Roberts family as we relive the experiences of the pioneers 100 years ago. Our journey begins in Gove County, Kansas on an August evening. We join the wagon circle in the solitude and space of the prairie. The womenfolk don pioneer dresses and bonnets if they wish. As we become acquainted with the wagon train crew and other pioneers, we also examine our wagon. It is to be our home for the next 3 days and nights and 65 miles. The mules that will pull our wagons and the saddle horses are rounded up from pasture to be ready to move out in the morning. At the campfire meeting, we learn more of what to expect on our journey. We will be traveling along the grass-covered but still visible ruts of the original Smokey Hill Trail. To prepare us for any Indian encounters, Sam Chestnut demonstrates the use of the barrel-load rifle. Dusk fades into darkness, and we return from a quiet stroll to try out our double-decked sleeping accommodations. We find them somewhat crowded for a family of 4, but quite authentic. We awaken at sunrise to the sound of bacon sizzling over the campfire. The chief cook is our wagon master, Herb Queen, a remarkable man of many talents. We find ourselves eating twice the breakfast we're used to because the hot cereal, bacon and eggs, and the sourdough pancakes look too good to pass up. Many chores must be done before our wagon train moves out. The wagons must be converted from sleeping quarters to traveling vehicles. Our water supply for the day must be taken on. Sleeping gear, and in fact, all movable objects must be tied down to prevent them from slipping off the tailgate on the bumpy uphill trails. Each of us must decide where to start off, sitting on the stagecoach or on the tailgate of a wagon with a good view of the entire train. Some prefer a softer bench seat inside the wagon or alongside the driver, perhaps on a saddle horse, or maybe walking alongside the wagon train. Whatever our choice, we need not stay in one place, but are free to move around. The wagon train only travels at about 3 miles an hour. This is our head cowboy, Dave Hefner. He looks after everyone's personal safety and particularly watches the younger members of our pioneer group. Lillian Queen is the driver of our wagon. Most of the drivers are longtime residents of Kansas who delight in telling us tales told to them by their parents, who came out here with their families as homesteaders on the original covered wagons. They have a special love for this country and for the mystique of the wagons. The flaps of our wagons are rolled up for ventilation. Even with the cool nights, the Kansas sun quickly warms us up to 85 or 90 degrees. There is, however, always a soft breeze blowing across the prairie, and we stay quite comfortable. A little more than an hour has passed since sunrise, and we soon hear a sound that will become quite familiar to us during the next 3 days.
Pick up your lines and let's wagons ho! Let 'em roll!
Contrary to our expectations, the prairie is not desolate or monotonous. We find many gentle rolling hills covered with lush grass and numerous trees. We are awesome of the way nature has arranged her colors of wild flowers, grasses, soils, rocks, and sky into infinite but always beautiful patterns. After traveling for 2.5 hours, we come upon a welcome sight to our thirsty horses. We pioneers take time out to wash down the dust too. It sure hits the spot out in this Kansas sun. We do fudge a little on authenticity. The Green Palace is pulled by the only motorized vehicle in our caravan. Usually it trails the wagons by a half-mile, but at rest stops it joins us. Refreshed, we're ready to move out once again. As did the real pioneers 100 years ago, we too must ford across Hackberry Creek. Even though the water level is low at this time of the year, the steep banks create a hazard for our wagons. Rosie is a retired Army pack burro who knows the Smokey Hill Trail as well as the wagon master. Gentle as she is, she becomes a favorite of the children to ride. A minor problem is quickly solved by Wagon Master Herb. Myrtle Merrifield, the oldest driver in our train, is a spry 72 years old. We pause for lunch on a bluff overlooking a little Grand Canyon, formed in the days when Kansas was an inland sea. We do some searching for fossils and shark's teeth, 40 million years old. Herb is quite knowledgeable and helps us identify our discoveries. A junior cowboy doesn't care much about fossils, but finds the cliffs and caves irresistible to explore. Fossils and shark's teeth aren't all that we find. A call of "Come and get it" brings us up to the top of the bluff. Hot lunch has been prepared in a central kitchen, converted from an old prairie schoolhouse, and brought to us in a food bus. And later, as it carries the dishwashing chores away, the ladies happily agree that the pioneers never had it so good. A good cowboy takes care of his horses before he eats. Lunch is over, our horses are watered, and once again we prepare to move out for the afternoon.
Pick up your lines and let's wagons ho! Let 'em roll!
Get it, Brody.
We pass by an isolated sod house, still intact from another era. We wonder if we would have been brave enough to homestead here 100 years ago. As we come over the top of a hill, we are astounded by a spectacular rock formation jutting out as if by magic in the middle of the prairie. As we draw closer, Herb explains that this is the famous landmark on the Kansas prairie known as Castle Rock and was used as a guide marker on the trail westward. Adjacent to it is the Castle Rock Bluff, and it is here we stop for a closer look at this magnificent formation. Herb directs us to the best path down into the deep gorge. A prominent part of this bluff is the aptly named Cobra Rock. Our exploration completed, we once again return to the wagon train and prepare to move on. A fast-approaching cloud of dust turned out to be the Pony Express rider, who dropped off a bag of mail and continued on his way. We were glad to see that we hadn't been forgotten out here on the prairie. Since it's now late in the afternoon, Herb decides that this will be a good place to make camp for the night. As we make our wagons ready for sleeping, we find time to relax before dinner. Suddenly, the tranquility is invaded by galloping hooves and war whoops. We're under attack by a band of renegade Indians. A spokesman from our crew succeeds in making peace. The Indians are only hungry and will gladly exchange the hostages for a campfire cooked meal. We relax once again over a delicious dinner. Every night after dinner, the children still have energy to burn up and become engrossed in various games. And so our journey ends. We have reached our destination safely, and we have somewhat the same feeling of accomplishment as did the pioneer homesteaders 100 years ago.